So I recently achieved a rating of 700 on Board Game Arena for the game of Connect 4, which gave me the master title. And I'm going to share the last three games that I played to get to that point and explain everything that goes through my mind when I play this game. And before I get into it, I'm just going to mention two things. First is that I did make another video that explains some of my strategy in more detail. I'm going to assume knowledge from that video, so I'd recommend you watch that before watching this one. The other thing I'm going to say is that most of the games that I played to get to master level were on the 9x9 and 10x10 sizes, which are unsolved board sizes, unlike the 7x6 board size, which is what most people play on this site, which is completely solved. So I just wanted to say that because you can know that I reached this point in an honest way, and that everything I'm going to describe is coming from my brain rather than from a computer. And I also think the bigger sizes are just more interesting because there's a lot more options and they are unsolved sizes, so it's just a lot more depth as you get to the bigger games. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the third to last game I played against a strong player. This was the fastest game. They get progressively longer and longer as we go through. And I start off by going here. I do want to point out that I think the second player has a slight advantage on these 10x10 board sizes. I think yellow is actually winning when the game starts. So I'm not sure it really matters where I start off as red, but I normally like to start off in the seventh or the fourth column because it's central enough that you can try to take control, but I prefer not to just start off right in the middle because it can get to a situation where you're kind of dividing the board in half and create something that's symmetrical, and I think that generally favors yellow, or at least makes it easier for yellow. So I start off there. Yellow goes here, and usually when I start off in one column and yellow starts off in another column, I usually just go on top of yellow. I think regardless of where yellow goes. Um, Unless yellow went like right here, in which case I would go here again as red. But he does go here, and I'm going to go here because I don't want him to get two consecutive yellow pieces here. That gives him a nice advantage in like getting control of this second row, which if you watched my previous video, you would know that the even numbered rows are good for yellow. So I'm going to go there. In general, getting two pieces like adjacent to each other in a column can be pretty powerful sometimes, so I'm preventing that. And he goes here, which is not what I would have expected, but I'm going to follow him and go here as well because if I didn't go here and if he got this cell, then he would have 2 out of 4 on this diagonal, and the two pieces that he's missing would be on the second row and the fourth row, which are both even numbered rows. So if he were to get this cell, that would be a pretty big advantage for him, and he would have a legitimate way of winning. And he goes here, and this is the first point in the game where I'm not really sure what I was supposed to do. I just chose to follow suit because I wasn't sure exactly what the best move was in this situation. This is kind of me just playing it safe and hoping that he trips up later. And now I chose to do something a little bit more exploitative. I'm not sure if this was the optimal move either, but my plan here was to go here and then here to kind of set up this odd threat to win. Because if he doesn't go here, and if he continues going on one of these columns, which I think is what most people would do, taking control of the center, then I can go here, and now he would have to go here to prevent me from getting that odd threat. And I think that's just an unnatural move for most people, because you think most people want to kind of get control of the center, set up some threats to win, and this is a place for yellow that's just not helping him win at all. It's just purely a defensive move off to the side, kind of in the middle of nowhere, doesn't connect with any of his other pieces. So I didn't expect him to go here, but I think this is where he should have gone. And he goes here instead, so I go here, and now I do have this odd road threat to win. And the only way I could lose this is if he had an odd road threat on the other side, which would kind of cancel it out. But the nice thing about this is I also have a setup to get a fork, because if I can get this cell here, then I would have a fork here, because either of these two cells would give me 4 in a row. And he did not stop me from doing that. He goes there instead. So I end up getting the fork threat and ended up winning this game pretty quickly. So I'm going to show the second game now. This was also against a strong player. Most of the players I played against to get to this point were in the 300s or 400s. And now I am yellow, which is an advantage. I think it's a lot easier to play yellow. I'm just going to go on top of him here. I think that's generally the right way to start this as yellow. And whenever I see someone start in another column that is like kind of a one gapper like this, I always just go in the middle, because if I were to go on the left or on the right, then he could go in the middle and force me to play on the other side anyway. And generally I don't like my opponent having a way to force my moves. So I'm just moving in the middle to kind of prevent that altogether. And this was an unusual response, just unusual in the sense that most people don't do this, but this is a case where I actually had to be pretty careful, because he could really take control of this if I did the wrong thing. So I was actually kind of looking ahead here too, and realizing that if I were to move in this column, and if he were to go on top of me, then he would have 3 out of 4 on this diagonal, and it would also force me to go here, because if he were to get this one and this one, he would have like this fork set up where he would just need this cell to create a fork and win, which is on an odd row. So if he were to get both of these cells, basically I think that would be a win for him. So if he were to go here, I would have to go here, and he could go here possibly. And if he were to go here, I can't go here, because he would have these 3 out of 4. So if he goes here, he would basically own this one as well. So it's like I would be trying to prevent him from getting the fork on this side, whereas I couldn't stop him from getting the fork row threat on the left side. So this is a case where I saw a few moves ahead that he could set that up, and I chose to move here to prevent him from forcing me to move here, because I really don't want him to get this cell. And now, like I said before, I don't want him to get that fork set up which kind of hinges on the third row, so I'm going to stop that. And this is the first time I feel like my opponent actually makes a mistake, because he's opening the door for me to go here, which is letting me get control of the fourth row, which is an even numbered row, which is good for yellow. And now it's a situation where I can just go on top of him, everything that he does in these three columns. So if he goes here, it'll go red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow. And you'd see I'd get the 4 in a row. The only way I could lose this is if he gets an odd threat on the other side. And the easiest way of doing that is if he gets this fork threat that I mentioned before. So my strategy from here on out is just to keep moving on top of him, but most importantly, not letting him get this cell. So I think I can kind of speed through a lot of this to kind of just show me going on top of him and preventing him from getting an odd road threat. But now he pretty much just gives the game away to me by moving here, so I can just go here for the win. So he ended up ending this one a lot sooner than it needed to be ended, but I was going to win this game anyway, just because I had the threat to win on this even numbered row. And now I'm going to show the last game that actually got me to the 700 point. Again, I'm starting off in the 7th column. And again, I'm going on top of his response to that. And now, this time, I didn't want to go on top of his move again. I chose to do something a little bit more exploitative, I guess. The reason why I chose to go here is because I saw that if he went here and I went on top, then I would have this threat to win on this odd row. Similarly, if he went up here or in any of these other columns, then I could go here, which would force him to go here, and then again I would go here and have the threat on the third row to win. The only way he can prevent me from getting that odd road threat is if he moves here specifically. But if he moves there, then I can move here. And it's kind of a nice fork setup where he has to go here, or I can go here, which would give me a threat to win here and a threat to win here. So basically, the reason I like this move is because he has to be very precise with how he responds. He has to go here, and then when I go here, he has to go specifically here. So it's forcing him to make a move off to the side that doesn't really help him. It's giving me a threat on an even row, which doesn't win the game for me, but it could be helpful later on. And I guess the most important thing is that it's forcing him to move here if he did go that way, so I could kind of take control by getting another move, more in the middle. But he does not move here, which I think he was supposed to. He moves here, so I get the odd road threat. So now the only thing I need to worry about is him getting an odd road threat that would cancel mine. Or if he gets this cell and this cell, then that would force me to move here. So those are the two things I need to prevent. And most of this game, I'm just going to be kind of going on top of him. Except this case, I do have to go here because if he got this cell, not only would he be forking me, but he would be forcing me to move here and lose this setup that I had. So I go there, and I think at this point, I feel like there's not really much he can do. I just need to kind of continue going on top of him and prevent him from getting an odd threat of his own. Let me know in the comments if you have questions about any of the moves that I kind of skipped over throughout this video, and I'd be happy to explain. As you can see, I was mostly just going on top of his moves. And now he goes here, which gives the game away to me early because I can go here and now I have a fork to win and he just can't stop it. So that's how I won it. So that is how you become a master at Connect 4 on Board Game Arena. Thanks for watching.